They referred to us as insane for speculating that XRP may reach $10 when $100 was muttered during the last bull run. They made fun of the neighborhood. However, the numbers are starting to speak for themselves, so no one is laughing anymore. It's not about hype here. This has nothing to do with hypothetical moonshots. This pertains to comprehending the market mathematics underlying one of the most misinterpreted assets in the cryptocurrency realm. Additionally, we will explain in this video why a $1,000 XRP token, yes, $1,000 per token, isn't as absurd as it may seem. You'll learn about the historical parallels, economic principles, and suppressed demand that could propel XRP to heights that most investors haven't dared to dream about. We must start by addressing the market cap, which is the elephant in the room. This is always the first defense offered against forecasts of increased prices. They claim that if XRP were to reach $1,000, its market capitalization would reach $1 trillion. They're correct, too, if you simply consider speculative valuation. That framework makes the assumption that XRP is a retail asset. It makes no assumptions about usefulness. The reasoning breaks down at that point. XRP isn't your average cryptocurrency. It is intended to play a useful part in the expanding financial system, which is worth several trillions of dollars. Furthermore, if demand is driven by utility, particularly for settlement, liquidity, and real-world transfers, then pricing reflects utility rather than only speculative mania. Let's calculate. Although there is now a 100 billion XRP maximum supply, only roughly 50 billion are in use. Now, the effective supply may eventually be much smaller due to Ripple's intention to speed up escrow burns and whale accumulation, gradually removing XRP from open markets. According to recent community recommendations, Ripple has proposed to eliminate all remaining escrow over the next few years, which might result in a liquid supply of 20 to 25 billion XRP by 2026. Now think about the world market. Ripple is focusing on digital currencies issued by central banks, tokenized assets, cross-border payments, remittances, and real-time liquidity provisioning. Over $5 trillion is thought to transit through cross-border transfers every day, according to the Bank of International Settlements. Demand may greatly outstrip supply if XRP only takes a little portion of that liquidity, say 0.1% to 0.5% held momentarily for settlement. Music, however, supply isn't the whole picture. Let's discuss the phenomenon known as the supply shock effect. Whale wallets, or wallets with more than 10 million XRP, have seen a sharp increase in holdings over the last 12 months. According to blockchain statistics, after Ripple's partial court success, long-term holders have secretly amassed roughly 6 billion XRP. In the meantime, net outflows have been observed on centralized exchanges month after month, indicating that users are transferring XRP to cold wallets with the intention of holding rather than selling. You get a strong supply-side squeeze when you combine that with escrow restrictions that are reducing the issuance of tokens. Prices react quickly and brutally when utility demand increases and liquid supply stops. Well, people, this leads us to historical precedents. Do you recall Ethereum from 2017? ETH was trading for less than $10 at the beginning of that year. It reached a peak of more than $1,400 before the end of the year. What, then, drove that exponential shift? Both usefulness and speculation were involved. Ethereum became the industry standard for initial coin offerings, ICOs, and demand soared while supply couldn't keep up. Let's move on to today's XRP now. XRP is taking the place of ICOs as the foundation of actual finance. Consider tokenization of institutional assets, on-demand liquidity for banks, and CBDCs. If Ethereum can rise from $10 to $1,400 in a year, what will happen when XRP's contribution to the global monetary system becomes into vital infrastructure? Music. Now let's move on to on-chain verification. Over the previous 18 months, we have been examining wallet growth, validator expansions, and XRP ledger transaction volumes. And I must say that what we discovered is quite interesting. There is a steady increase in the quantity of new wallets with long-term holding behavior. Beyond peer-to-peer transfers, even more intriguing transaction types are emerging, including tokenized assets, NFTs, and sidechain conversations. This indicates that developers are creating and releasing actual goods, not just creating them. And what do you know? Demand is generated by actual products. My friends, you also need to think about the narrative shift. Because of the SEC litigation, XRP was one of the most delisted and shunned cryptocurrency assets just 2 years ago. However, traditional banking firms like SBI Holdings, Santander, and even Bank of America are increasingly openly recognizing Ripple's contribution to payment modernization. It takes time to make this type of change, but when it does, there's a rush. Institutions don't merely tread water. Once regulatory certainty is established, they pour in. And since that clarity is already being apparent, 2025 might be the year that XRP is viewed as a compliant, utility-driven financial train rather than a speculative cryptocurrency. Music, what does that mean for the $1,000 projection? Then, so, how about we do a little hypothetical? With an average today holding requirement for liquidity provisioning, if the supply of XRP is reduced to 25 billion tokens through escrow, burn and whale locking, and XRP is utilized in a portion of the global liquidity market, say $2 trillion total flow annually, then XRP would need to be worth about $1,000 per token to meet that liquidity need. Folks, this isn't just any random multiplier. It is predicated on settlement volume, transaction velocity, and, actual use cases. Let's be fair now. The bull case is that. The bear case is what? If regulatory obstacles continue, adoption stops, or Ripple loses momentum to rivals like Stellar or Quant, XRP might stay range-bound, perhaps trading between $2 and $10, with specialized use cases supporting it, but never reaching full global scale. That's the truth. However, even in that basic case, the risk-reward ratio is still quite attractive when compared to the 0.5% annual percentage yield AP offered by a conventional savings account. However, the market no longer places bets on the bear case. The ledger is changing, developers are constructing, institutions are interacting with Ripple, and wallets are expanding. As XRP's infrastructure grows to accommodate additional verticals from AMMIS and hooks to an FTTS and side chains, it will be able to meet demand from a wider range of sources. The real recipe for a price explosion is that. Where do you stand? Then, are you in your proper position? Are you observing from a distance? Early conviction is amusingly rewarded in the cryptocurrency sector, and XRP has undergone more battle testing than any other asset. It has withstood lawsuits, delistings, and organized media attacks, and it continues to have one of the most robust blockchain ecosystems. Usefulness, not speculation, may soon drive pricing when usefulness finally takes center stage. Leave a comment below with your desired XRP pricing. Is $1,000 too much, or is it just a given? If you think XRP has a bright future, hit the like button. Stay tuned for more unfiltered data-backed insight right here. And if you're staying early, subscribe. Please note that this video is solely intended for informational and educational reasons. It isn't financial guidance. Before you make any investing decisions, please conduct your own research and speak with a financial advisor.